All right, welcome everybody to our regular scheduled Sundays with Pastor Neil. Glad to be back. Had a good service this morning here at the church. Hope everybody was watching. Hope everybody got something out of it. It was a good message by Pastor Sims. What we got going on tonight, we're kind of rounding the corner here. Some people are, doing some things, getting back into some routines now that we're back off spring break this week. So we can kick things off here with a little bit of kind of where we've been through what we can experience through the pandemic. Now we're going to let's apply something to this where we can help each other out,
right.
Where we can get something out. Let's be friendly to our neighbors. So real quick, if you'll let us, I'm going to start off with one of the most probably recognizable stories in the Bible.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard it. The parable of the Good Samaritan. I'm going to read out of Luke 10, starting verse 25. And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tested him, saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, What is written in the law? What is your reading of it? So he answered and said, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he said to him, You have answered rightly. Do this, and you will live. But he, wanting to justify himself, said to Jesus, Well, who is my neighbor? Jesus answered and said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among the thieves, who stripped him of his clothing and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a certain priest came down the road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. So he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the next day when he departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, Take care of him, and what more you spend when I come again, I will repay you. So which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to him, who fell among the thieves? And he said, He who showed mercy on him. Then Jesus said, Go and do likewise. So we started off with that story tonight that kind of put us in a position of, can we be a good Samaritan in times like this? I mean, I think we were talking earlier, and I said, when this pandemic, before it started, the country was divided.
Right.
I mean, we had Republican, Democrat, we had races, with each other,
That's right.
Against each other. And so even as weirdly as it sounds, the pandemic brought people together.
Right.
I mean, we said, people were helping their neighbor. They were
common
going to get toilet paper. They were going to help grocery shop.
Right.
People were doing things for people. They were, doing this stuff. And now just through yesterday, today, when they started announcing this, and we're going to open back up, and people it's almost like we separated into separate
right.
camps again. So
Right.
here we are now. What can we do to be that Samaritan, to not
Right.
be like the priest and the Levite? So that's kind of what we're going to go with tonight, is how can we love on our neighbor during a time like this?
Right. I think we do live in a world where controversy seems to be the biggest thing. I'm a wrestling fan. I love wrestling. And it is built off of nothing but controversy.
That's right.
I mean, it is set up to be a male soap opera, so to speak. And it's just all about the stories and about the conflict between people. Look at talk shows, from Jerry Springer to Maury to whatever. It's all set up. No, nobody's watching to see the peace, love, and harmony. That's
right.
not why they're watching. They're waiting to see if somebody's going to say something smart, or if there's going to be somebody's going to throw a chair, or if somebody's going to throw a punch, or whatever.
Any of these reality TV shows that you watch nowadays, the things they show on TV are the fights, the yelling,
That's
the
right.
carrying on.
That's right.
Because that's what gets viewers, and
That's
everybody
right.
wants to see the train wreck.
That's right.
So,
Even all the way down to The Bachelor.
That's right.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's all about stirring the pot, so to speak.
That's right.
And to be honest with you, I think it's a simple war strategy that's gone through the course of all of time. I hated school, but now that I'm older, I look back and I love history things.
That's right.
And I'll find myself watching the History Channel even sometimes. I'm really getting old. But you're sitting there watching, and it's like the simple thing that we've heard quite a bit that goes actually into even to the sports world.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer. If I can get you arguing with each other,
yeah.
then I've got you right where I want you.
That's right.
So a younger generation is not going to know this name, but one of the most, I would say, effective basketball players of his time was Dennis Rodman.
Yep, absolutely.
Dennis Rodman didn't score. Now, he could rebound, but his whole thing was to find somebody. There's my punk. And he would just get involved, and he would just all in their ear, the whole game, just constantly. And they would want to throw punches.
Yeah.
In fact, that was the whole goal. I'm going to get you to fight before this is over because you're going to be gone. And that was the whole thing. It wasn't that he was a great basketball player. He knew his role. Mm-hmm. He stuck to his role. And I thought, this guy made a living off of being a pest, just an agitator. Right. And we've got people in the world that this is what they do.
Yeah.
Who can I upset today?
Conflict is a money-making scheme.
Absolutely. And so the opposite of that is, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall, obtain peace. And it doesn't say peacekeeper. Peacemaker. If I can make peace in this situation, it's going to work. It's not that I got to keep the peace. And we hear that. That's that old saying, and that's not what we're called to do. We're called to be a peacemaker. Well, like I said, I didn't like school, all that, but I do know that there's tenses to your verbs. Mm-hmm. You've got the being verb, the helping verb, the whatever. An action verb is making something. When I'm taking action. So if I'm going to make peace, how do I do that? And during this time, I'm watching people going off on Facebook, which great day. You want to talk about something capitalizing on conflict and controversy. But about fights at the Walmart right here over a pack of toilet paper. I've just seen it, and they videoing this stuff, and I'm like, is this what we've come to? And we really have. This is it. And those that can make peace and promote love and peace during this time are amazing.
That's right.
Because conflict tends to bring out the true character of most people.
Yeah. Well, we had gotten to this point where we said, we've gone through these topics of people bullying people and the anxiety people are fear and all this stuff, and we kind of said, hey, this is what people are feeling during this time that's causing these actions. Now we're looking at, okay, how can we take that and say, all right, we've got to be the peacemaker. We've got to be the lover. We've got to be the one that helps out.
Right.
And and you know as well as I do, and everybody's heard the story, the Samaritan that came along to help was the enemy in the situation.
Right. That's exactly right.
He was the complete enemy.
That's right.
Of the Israelite that had was on the street half dead. So
in fact, I found a quote.
Yeah.
I thought this was great from England's former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. It says she once observed, no one would remember the Good Samaritan if he'd only had good intentions. He had money too. In other words, he put his money where his mouth is. Because we got a lot of people say, I'll help. Okay, well then, can you do this? Oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, what about this? No, I can't do that either. And it's like our help comes.
To the other side of the river.
Yes, we ain't I'm going on that side or whatever.
That's right.
And then the Good Samaritan wasn't actually a historical figure like Margaret Thatcher, but it was something that Jesus used because this parable came about because they were attacking Jesus.
Yeah.
What do you do? And he was trying to show them because they were trying to justify their unwillingness to walk the walk.
That's right.
Because you can tell people what you are all you want to, but until you show them that you're strengthened by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony, that kind of thing. And so I found these, and I ain't gonna lie, I got some of these from Jensen Franklin, a couple of these, and I thought, man, this is some good stuff. But the 5 things that we can actually learn from the Good Samaritan story. And the first one was that he was willing to get involved.
Yeah.
I heard a quote a few years back that really resonated with me, was that omission a lot of times will become permission.
Yeah.
It when you just, I don't want to get involved. You're involved. You witnessed it. It doesn't matter whether you want to or not. You are. It's almost back to another name from the sports world that, like Charles Barkley says, I am not a role model. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You became a role model when you agreed to step into that arena.
Right.
Whether you want to be or not. And it's kind of like even at church. You get a microphone and stand on a stage, you become a leader.
That's right.
Whether you want to be or not. If you do anything, you become that person.
That's right.
And that's part of it. So willing to get involved, and that's tough. And see, we can quote scripture, and there's a lot that I've seen. And, and another thing, another little side note that, you can't judge me, only God can do that. That's not exactly what it says.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
it says, judge not lest you be judged. In other words, if you're going to judge somebody, then make sure you're going to be held to those same standards.
That's
It
right.
doesn't mean that I don't have the right to tell you that's wrong.
That's right.
You know, well, that's judging. Exactly right. And I have that. It says you'll know them by their fruit, which means I do have a point. Now, I can't place a final sentence on you.
That's right.
You're going to hell, and I'm done with you. That's not my
right.
job.
That's right.
But
you can say, hey, what you're doing is wrong.
That's exactly right.
And what you're living and how you're doing this, and you know,
Absolutely.
there's more than that example.
That's right.
You know, in the Bible it says, it tells you to call your brother out. When
Absolutely.
He's doing wrong.
Well, my thing is, if you'll know that they're my disciples by the way they love one another, then that means I'm going to know if you're not one, if you're sowing
don't
hate.
love, that's right.
Exactly right. And so I see this a lot of times that you hear people, their Facebook, their even TikTok videos of I'm going to share my testimony, or they placing memes of different quotes or different scriptures or things to let the whole world know that they're a Christian, you know, and then you see the way they get involved with their life. And I'm going to go one step further, and I know there's a lot that may disagree with me on this, but my thing is this: I don't have to go to church to be a Christian. I believe you do.
Yeah.
Because and I guess it shows me that if you don't have enough spiritual discipline to do that, what are the odds you doing it at home?
That's right.
Because I'll be honest with you, it's a lot easier for me to come to church than to grab my Bible at home and read, because there's way too many distractions there.
Absolutely.
You know, you come on Sunday morning, you can sit in there 2 hours. If I'm at home, there's the TV, there's the neighbors, there's the dog, there's the kids, there are way too many distractions at home.
We're fighting that as a church in whole now.
Absolutely.
With this live stream thing, and yes, you can still have church, and we're still having these,
Right.
You know, we're trying, but it's a lot of how can we get people to engage? How can we get people to watch past the 1 hour mark?
Right.
And you know, okay, the first 30 minutes you've got
Yep.
X amount of followers, and every 10 minutes after that, they're going down and going down and going down. Like you said, there's too many things at home.
Side note, if you got to get out of here by 12 to get to the restaurant, you ain't going to the restaurant now. What are you doing now?
That's
What
right.
excuse is it
But
now?
I'm saying there's so many things, like when you're sitting in a church service,
Right.
and the spirit's moving,
Yeah.
you can engage in that church
Absolutely.
service. And sometimes even the spirit can move in your house. Don't get me
Right,
wrong.
that's right.
But there's like you said, there's also, well, I'm watching on TV, but I'm checking Facebook on my
Oh,
phone,
yeah.
or
That's right.
I'm gonna get up and go get me a drink in the kitchen. I can still hear it playing on the TV, but I'm gonna
That's
go get
right.
me a drink and a snack, and
Yep.
by then you've wasted 15 minutes. But,
That's right.
And I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not doing some of the
Oh,
same
look,
thing. You know, I mean, but the thing is,
I'll be honest with you.
But like you
I
said-
hadn't watched them all. I'm
but
come
like
clean.
you said, that's why you need to be involved in church.
Right.
And I've used that excuse. I've
Right.
used that. I mean, as personally
right.
and as a family, I mean, we've
Right.
used that of, okay, I don't have to go to church to get to heaven. I've used that excuse, so
Right.
I know that that's a justify. I mean, that's just trying to justify that thing.
Right.
But like you said, you've got to go. You've got to be involved.
Yep.
If not,
Well,
you're not producing love.
It's
You're
almost
not
like
producing
saying
fruit.
your significant other. Oh, I love him or I love her. Well, every chance you get, you at the house. I can't tell you how many times I've seen. I can't wait till this thing's over so I can go see my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my
That's right.
whatever. Or you got parents, and nothing against it, but making it okay. They can come over. That kind of thing, and we're allowing that, but. Isn't that what we're supposed to be in our relationship with Christ? It's a love relationship.
That's right.
So my thing is, if I love him the way I say I do, I should be jumping at every opportunity to go to his house.
That's right.
That's my love interest. That's who I'm involved with. And you see the quotes and you see the stuff, and then you see the life, and you're like, blowing smoke. Something's not adding up here.
And that's the first part of this story too. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with
That's
all
right.
your soul, and all your strength, with all your mind. And that's the first part of this.
Right.
Is like, that's what we're talking about now. But here's
Yep.
the second part: and your neighbor as yourself.
There you go.
This is where we're at in the point in the world where, like you said, you can these people get on Facebook and they talk about how great God is and
Right.
the things that God have done, and that's great. And they give these.
Right.
I think you've seen a lot of the stuff going around, my 90-second testimony.
Yes.
And a lot of
That's right.
And that's a great
It's great.
blessing
It is.
to people.
It is.
But if you get on Facebook and you put your 90-second testimony, and the next thing you do, the next post on your page is about,
It needs to be reported.
you know what I'm saying, is about not even things, but it's
Yep.
causing sowing strife and sowing hatred with your neighbor.
That's exactly
That's the second
right.
part of this. That's the second part of this story.
I'm not even keeping peace. I'm making peace. I'm not even keeping.
Not even trying.
Right. But what you just read, love your neighbor as yourself. And I think this has been one issue with the quarantine it's probably revealed, I know it has for me, revealed some ugly truths about myself.
Yeah.
Because I've had time to sit there and, because I'll be honest with you, I'm hyper by nature. I am easily distracted. And like I said, I sit outside for a couple of hours in a lawn chair, just sitting there and watching people walk and outside. And there was some thoughts that was running through my head about who I am.
Yeah.
I don't need to be worried about nobody else. And I thought, and I asked myself that question, do I really love myself? And there's a lot of times you see people that appear as cocky or way too confident, and you wonder, I'm not sure they believe what they're trying to sell me. They're not trying to convince me how good they are. They're trying to convince themselves. And it's because I'm not sure they love themselves. So the first thing I think needs to be worked on during this quarantine is there's some people that do need to fall in love with themselves again. And for that to happen, they've got to find who they are in Christ. Because that's what it all comes down to. But what was amazing to me in this story that jumps out at me is the three people that passed by.
Yeah.
The first one was the senior pastor.
Exactly.
It was the priest.
Yep.
He walked right on by and was like, I'm not dealing with that. The second that went by was the Levite, which would be the support staff of a church, or the church, which would be youth pastor, music pastor, children's pastor, media pastor, associate pastor, administrative pastor, pastor emeritus, whatever. Lay people in the church that are the ministers that step up. That's the second group that was represented that went by. They didn't stop either. But the one that stopped was the enemy. Now tell me that don't make the church look bad.
Well, the second one, the one that stopped was, if I'm a Republican, it was the Democrat.
It was the Democrat, exactly.
If I'm white, it was
the black. That's exactly right.
So that's where I think we get lost in this thing is, okay, the Good Samaritan, great. The Good Samaritan's got this name of, if you help somebody out, you're the Good Samaritan, right. But even if you help somebody else, or if I help you and we're the same race and we're the same political thing,
that's right.
I'm the Good Samaritan to you, but if I help somebody else that's a Good Samaritan, that's a good thing. But the Samaritan was the opposition.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes that does get lost of that was a good person. He was probably just a good person.
Right.
And he may very well, obviously he was.
That's right.
But he took it upon himself to say that
he got involved.
And that I'm going to get involved because it laid on his heart, or he knew the script. Maybe he knew we don't have a whole lot of background on him, but
right.
Now that I know this story, if I'm not willing to get involved, then I'm worse than the Samaritan.
Absolutely.
Or worse than the priest, or worse than the thing.
I didn't even realize what I was doing at the time in the ministry thing. I had just started. This was at the old church. In fact, I think it was 2000. So I hadn't even been in ministry a year. And there was a kid in my youth group that I knew I was sinking.
Yeah.
And I knew somebody pointed it out to me by accident. Didn't even know the situation or what was going on. And I actually referred this. There was a guy that was a youth pastor in town at the Methodist Church. His name was Dan Nichols. Dan Nichols he's still alive. I said was like he passed away. He was a man of integrity and character, and he was one of those that you kind of watch without them knowing you were watching them, and he shaped and molded a lot of what I first started with. And I referred this kid to his church because I knew he had the tools to fit what this kid needed, and I didn't. Yeah. And it was maybe a year later after that. Fast forward, that Dan Nichols made the statement. He said, the biggest competition that we have going on in Sumter County is not between the sinners and the saints. It's between the churches. And I thought, ouch. And then he said, Neil, you have no idea. It spoke to me when you send this kid to me. It's like, wait a minute. This guy's not in it.
Yeah.
For numbers. I was concerned about the soul, and I really was. And I'm not going to say that I did that, like this, because I didn't realize what I was doing. I just knew, wait a minute, I know a guy that can help you, that kind of thing. And crossing the boundaries. And I look, there's a lot of times in the church world, we can't go to the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Because last I checked, God's got it all.
That's right.
He owns both sides of the street. And they wouldn't make, and it's just like you just said, this guy went completely against the grain of all of society there. See, he treated and bandaged the wounds. And it says he set this guy on his donkey. In other words, here, you take my
ride,
car.
I'll walk.
You ride and I'll walk. Exactly. Took him to an inn and cared for him throughout the night. He could have said to himself, I give regularly to my church. You know, I donate, I do this, I work here, I already do that, so that's not me. I give to the Salvation Army every Christmas, I've done my part. But the scripture says he had compassion.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people got compassion, but he acted on his. To me, that's a whole nother level of getting involved.
That's right.
And it's one thing to sow money into it, and you should. You should sow in money, and it's another to sow a little bit of your time in there. It's another to show I'm going to do something about this. Right. I remember it was Winterfest. This has been years and years and years and years ago that a comment was made. If you're that person that sits in a church service and says, well, somebody needs to do this, somebody needs to do that, guess who somebody is?
That's right.
If it's bothering you that much, maybe you need to get more involved with things. And I thought, ow, that was something that really jumped out at me. You know, the second thing, we kind of touched on this a little bit before, was that the Good Samaritan, he ignored the racism.
Yeah.
That's the second thing that we can learn from him. He completely ignored it. In other words, you like him? Ooh, he's a black guy. You're white. You know, and it was like, I don't care what you think.
That's right.
You know, he was considered a despised Samaritan. You know, the guy on the ground, you said it, we don't know a lot about his background. He could have been talking crap about the Samaritan himself. And we don't know that. But he rose above that shallowness. And we played this clip the other week where Pee Wee goes to Jackie at first base, and he says, you know what? Shoot. Maybe next game we'll all wear 42 so they can't tell us apart. Yeah. One of the best little clips I saw not long ago was the two little boys, a little white boy and a little black kid. They run to each other on the sidewalk and they hug. Racism doesn't come in our genes. Right. It's not something that's in our DNA. Well, it's a learned behavior.
You've seen the thing that's, speaking of two little boys, where one's a little white child and one's a little black boy, and they both shave their head and they laugh because the teacher's not going to be able to tell them apart. You know, that kind of stuff. And it is. It's an ingrained thing. And I'll tell you, I mean, without sitting here saying I got to do this, I got to do that, but it's a everyday. It doesn't matter how much or what you do. If you're a preacher, if you're a builder, car dealer, whatever.
That's right.
You deal with people of the opposite race.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times you catch yourself falling into stereotypes that you see on, like, I got to deal with that person, or I got to deal with this person, and then
I should have pulled that picture up. There's a picture that's got Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart standing at the table, and it says one of these is a felon.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and it's not Snoop Dogg. That's right. You know, that kind of thing.
Right. So I mean, you fall into these stereotypes, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard to sit there, and especially when we prove the stereotype right.
That's right.
And that even, that fuels the fire of
absolutely
of I knew that's how they were going to act because that's what I've heard, and it works both ways, and it even works into the church life of these, we see these pastors out here now that are having these services and give your checks to your stimulus checks to the church, and people outside the church have the stereotype of the churches. They're only doing it for the money.
Money hungry. Yeah.
They're only doing it for the money. And when we do things like that, we fuel those stereotypes. Well, guess what?
Because you can call in and they'll send you that little bag of water. You see that?
So, I mean, it's not just the blacks are feeding the stereotypes to the whites, and the whites are feeding the stereotypes. It's Christians feeding the stereotypes to the atheists. And
that's right.
I mean, so
that's right.
But the one true thing that conquers the stereotype is love.
Absolutely.
If you can show love
to
the opposite race, if you can show love to the opposite political party, if you can, the Christian can show love to the non-Christian.
That's exactly right.
That's not the stereotype. The stereotype is to hate that person.
That's right.
If you can show the love and sow the love, that the Good Samaritan, that's the main point of the story. It's not, and it's really not that the priest passed him by, the Levite passed him by, and that kind of feeds that stereotype of church people don't care nothing about the church people.
Absolutely.
But, maybe the Samaritan was a churchgoer too.
He may have been. That's right.
Saying he knew And that's where we have to be careful as Christians and as other races, and you have to sow the love, or it doesn't. You feed the stereotype.
Right. In fact, Matthew Henry's commentary said between the Samaritan and the guy that was laying there, it's the same as 19th century slave showing compassion to a plantation owner. Yeah. It was the same or equivalent to a Jewish prisoner demonstrating concern for a Nazi guard during World War II. And, you look at that from that magnitude and you're like, oh, shoot. Yeah. That's deeper than what we are now.
That's right.
And I'll go so far as this. We when we say racism, I'm just going to say prejudice.
Yeah.
To me, we look whites versus blacks, and that's the first thing we look at.
That's right.
And to me, that's not necessarily the big prejudice we're in now. It's so complex now. We've got rich, poor, pretty, ugly, economic standard. Oh, you live in that neighborhood. Ugh. Yeah. That kind of thing. And I've been guilty of some of that too. Oh, yeah. I ain't going on the Boulevard Road at night, that kind of thing. Yeah. And we really do that. And here's this guy that just completely overlooked all of that.
Yeah.
And I think when we realize that love has got to be the number one thing.
That's right.
That's exactly what it is. My kids have heard me preach this year after year after year. It says God is, back to that verb tense. Is not something that he does. It's who he is. That's a state of being, that God is love. Yeah. And if you don't have God, you don't have love. And it almost makes you question the person that doesn't have that relationship with God. When they look at somebody and say, I love you, do you really?
What do you think?
And what's sad is, just say the Samaritan wasn't a church guy. That really does make the church look bad.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a church guy. I hope he was. Can't wait to get to heaven and ask.
Find out, yeah.
But I thought it doesn't matter whether he was or wasn't. To me, it doesn't matter that he's a Samaritan.
Yeah.
What speaks to me is he stopped.
He
was willing to get involved. He ignored what everybody would say. Ooh, look at that Samaritan kneeling over that guy. That's a Jew.
The Samaritan in the story is to place the emphasis on the divide.
That's exactly right.
It doesn't really matter that he was a Samaritan. Yep. And the story could still have been a good story if the priest had been the one that stopped and showed him love.
Absolutely.
Because the moral of the story is that you love your neighbor as you love yourself. The priest has got that was his neighbor.
That's right.
The Levite, that was his neighbor.
Yep.
The Samaritan, that was his neighbor. But so it really didn't matter. For the story, for the emphasis, it matters that it was the Samaritan the one that showed love, because people understood that.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, we hate the Samaritans, and they're the ones that stopped and showed the love. So that for the story. But like you said, the main objective there is that somebody stopped.
Somebody stopped.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we see the first thing is that he was willing to get involved. Then the second thing, he ignored the racism. And then the third thing that I found is just he had money. And how do you know that? I think that Margaret Thatcher was spot on when she said, he had good intentions, but he had money too. And it's because this man, no doubt he lived within his budget. He spent less than he made, and he maintained this fund because where'd he take him? He didn't take him and just, hey, can you keep this guy? Or whatever. He took him to an inn. He took him to a place that could care for him, that was going to cost to stay there. There's a lot of times we're willing to help somebody unless it's going to come out of my pocket.
Yeah.
I've said this before. Scott Eastet, the Palmetto Oyster House, little plug for them. Check them out. Easter Sunday, he's giving away free meals.
Yeah.
And I thought, and everybody automatically, okay, what's the catch?
Yeah.
We look at something, and everybody's flipping over this stimulus check. It's going to have to be paid back.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that right now. Somewhere or another, it's going to come back.
Right.
But this guy did this knowing I'm not ever going to see this money again.
Yeah.
But I did it, which means he had money. My mom, I got a lot of faults, but selfish is not one of them. My mom has made the statement, if I were to win the lottery, I'd be broke again in a year. But everybody, all my friends would have everything they want, and I would too. You said you'd spend it all. Everybody be living in big old nice houses, driving big old nice cars. You'd give it all away, that kind of thing. And I'll never forget, I had a cousin that was staying with me one time, and he goes, we wore the same shoe size, and he goes, hey, I need a pair of shoes. Can I wear it? Yeah, just grab some. Well, which ones do you not want me to get? get whatever you want.
That's right.
You know, and his thing was, huh? You know, we talked about that later on in years in life because he remembered that for some reason. And, you know, he said, you know, that thing taught me a lesson because I just said, no, don't wear those.
Yeah, that's
Don't
shoes.
yeah, don't wear my Air Jordans. Don't wear them. You know, don't wear my LeBrons. You know, don't you can wear anything. Don't wear them. You know, I got some Skechers over here. You can put, you know, that kind of thing. But this guy put his money there, knowing. Then the fourth thing, it's he had a good name. Even though he was the Samaritan, he had a good name because when he carried this guy to the inn, he dropped him there. The innkeeper trusted him.
Yep.
You know, probably because he'd already proven himself to be trustworthy.
That's right.
You know, there's just some people that tell me certain things, and I'm like, they're talking again. Don't worry about it. It's not the truth.
That's right.
He had a good name. Then the fifth thing is that he was generous. It's one thing to have money. You know, when somebody says, well, let's just say Donald Trump. Donald Trump gave $1,000 to the church, and you'd be like, and?
So,
Because, $1,000 to him is about like maybe a dime to me.
I gave 10 cents. So
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, you know, now if you hear Neil DeBose gave $1,000, you're like,
damn.
he got $1,000. You know, that kind of thing. See, he didn't know how long this injured man was going to be there. And I figured it's going to be a while because the text actually says he was beaten half to death.
He was almost dead.
And I mean, y'all, I don't know if y'all can see that real good, but if y'all look at my arm, I look like I was on an episode of the Tiger King. You know, that thing tore me up. And it was just from working in the backyard and got briars all over me. And I'm thinking, that looks kind of gross and nasty right there. So if that's like that, I can't imagine what he looked like.
Yeah, there's no telling.
I mean, was he recognizable? If he's beaten half to death, I don't know how that judge, 3/4 of the way to death, I don't know what to judge it. But I can imagine what he really looked like. In fact, funny story, I'll never forget, this has been a few years ago. I went to the back building to pull the nativity set up. And you know, living in the South, it's 85 degrees in December. Right. And I'm getting the nativity set, and I pulled the first thing out to slide the thing out, and nothing happened. So, you know, it's good. I brought it in. I go to get the second one, same place, same spot. And I didn't see it the first time. But when I pulled it back, a wasp nest hit the brim of my hat. And I mean, that wasp nest was like that 27 bee stings on me. But one of them got me when they carried me to the hospital, but it was like an eighth of an inch from my eyeball. Yeah. And I knew I was tingling and feeling funny. I came into church, and I think Todd Timmons was in the pastor's office. And when I walked in the pastor's office, the preacher says, "Oh, great day," like that. And I'm like, what in the world? I looked like Sloth from Goonies. They didn't even ask it. Todd just threw me in the car and carried me straight on to the emergency room. It's swelled up, and I looked at myself finally in the mirror, and I'm like, oh shoot, you know. So I can't imagine what this guy looked like, you know.
Yeah.
And if this guy's got money, you know, if this guy's got a good name, there's a lot of times we don't want to get involved with our, you know, showing our love because, I'll get dirty.
It's going to cost.
It's going to cost.
It's going to cost not even, and that goes back to the Samaritan had money. Well, we say, you know, he had money because he gave this, but even if you're thinking, okay, well, I ain't got to worry about that because I sure ain't got no money. No, if you got a roof over your head, if you've got that kind of stuff, you're blessed beyond what some people are. And it may not be, I could put somebody up for weeks in a hospital.
That's right.
I could do something like that. But if you give anything out of your time, you know, give money, that's money you have to give.
Right.
But this, like you said, the Samaritan had to, and he put the man's well-being on credit.
Absolutely.
With the end,
that's exactly right.
Whatever it takes.
Yep.
When I return, I will repay you. So, I mean, that, like I said, that some people might say, all right, I'm going to get involved all that I can get involved with this extra $100 I got.
Right.
But if it's going to cost me
what
any
can
more
I do
than
with
that,
this?
If it's going to cost me any more than that, I don't know. Or if I've got to put something out there that's going to be, I don't know what it's going to cost me. Because that's, I mean, that's basically what he did was he said, I will take care of this man's needs no matter what it cost me. So he had no idea when he got back what his bill was going to be.
That's exactly right.
So, and that's paying it in the future. That's putting it in the future. Like,
absolutely.
I don't know what it's going to cost me when I get back.
Yep.
But I'm willing to do that.
Right.
So
I wonder what he was wearing. You know, just a little, just the way my brain works. Because I remember the ministers' meeting a few years ago. I was on a 75 in Greenville, and we had just left, and I got rear-ended, and it was a pretty bad wreck. totaled my truck. And in fact, when I came to, I was in the emergency room, and Miss Jackie was actually picking glass out of my head. Yeah. But I don't remember this, but my brother was behind me. The guy behind him hit my brother, and my brother hit me. And he said, when he got up to the truck, I was bleeding, pouring blood from my head, and said, the first thing out of my mouth was, "Get this shirt off. This is a buckle shirt. I don't want to get blood on it." Yeah. Well, when you don't have a whole lot of money and you got a buckle shirt, you want to make sure that thing's taken care of. Right. But I mean, you wonder if this guy had on, if he had money, if he was, everything that we think about him, if this was true, and this guy's beaten half to death, he's got to move him. Oh, wait, no, I'm going to get blood on me.
Yeah, hang on, let me get some gloves.
Yeah, let me get some gloves, or let me take my shirt off, or let me make sure I got on some old clothes before I deal with you. But he didn't. That wasn't even a consideration. He jumped right in, and this generosity wouldn't have been possible had there not been some amount of love in him. Yeah. It had to be there. And see, that to me, that's the central message of this story is he goes against all these things just to love. And to be honest with you, it kind of eliminates any excuse that we have now to say, well, no, I don't have money to do that. So we're not the same. We're not the same. I can't help him. He's a Democrat. I'm Republican, or I'm Democrat and he's Republican, whatever. Or I can't do that. I live in Timberline. Yeah. He lives in wherever. And all those excuses are gone.
That's right.
Because this guy just completely showed us it's not about that. When it comes down to it, a life is very, very valuable. And I mean, we look in this pandemic, and my heart, I watched the little special that was on, I think, what was it, One World or whatever, something like that.
Last night, yeah.
I watched some of that, and I watched, what's the blind guy that sings, the operatic singer?
Bocelli.
Bocelli. Yeah. I watched him, Celine Dion, and John Legend. Yeah. And you're like, wait a minute. He don't, in kindergarten they give you this paper, circle which one don't belong. He don't belong, but I'm watching this, and I told you, I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. Great. They can sing, that kind of thing. Yeah. And when you have a common foe that's spiritual, because the devil. Yeah. I don't care if you're Lutheran, Catholic, Episcopalian, Fundamental Baptist, Southern Baptist, Congregational Baptist, Presbyterian. That doesn't matter. What matters is that's God's creation. Mm-hmm. And whether you're the biggest atheist that there is, I should have enough love inside of me that it gets beyond all of those barriers. That's right. Instead of fighting over a roll of toilet paper, man, come on, here. Yeah. You don't have any, you can have one of mine. That's right. Or look, there's 6 in here. You take 3, I'll take 3. Yeah. And I think when we start getting back to that, and I'll be honest with you, my fear is when all this is done, what's going to happen? Yeah. Or, how long are you still going to continue to call on God? Yeah. Or we're back to normal. Okay, thank you for your help. Yeah.
See you next time.
See you next time. Yeah. I'll see you Easter, and I'll see you Christmas.
But that's the thing too. And like we said, we're circling all this back around as we've talked about all the stuff that people are going through and how we can help each other. But really, like you said it just a minute ago, if you don't have love, it doesn't matter. I mean, because you're going to find an excuse not to help that person. You're going to find a reason not to help that person.
In fact, I want you to, those of you that are watching, to go ahead and text me. Just send me a text of what can you do to show this kind of love during this pandemic. Be thinking about that and text me. What can you do to show love? Carrying your neighbor a roll of toilet paper. I don't know, but just some examples of. I know I've done a lot more soul searching for me. That's going to help me be better. And even you, what have you done? In fact, that's why I was telling Scott, man, I wish I'd have went and helped that Easter Sunday. I'd have loved to have been doing that. That's just, wow, man, that's amazing.
That's right.
What can we do? We, as a church, we've reached out to some of our elderly. We've made the phone calls. We've carried them little care packages and that kind of thing. And to be honest with you, do we do that for? In fact, I found this picture. Tucker, put that picture up on there. We found this picture, and it was ouch.
Yeah.
You know, when I first seen this picture,
I saw it the other day, and I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I was like, wow. You know, and there's the selfie of, because this guy, he didn't know if anybody was watching. Yeah. He didn't care. It was a driving force.
The only reason he had the recognition was because later on Jesus used it as a story.
Absolutely.
And, because nowhere else and anything else would you have ever heard. One, because the Israelites probably would have not wanted to talk about the Samaritan helping when
no.
And the church sure wasn't going to talk about it how we walked past him twice and let somebody else help him. So there would be no record of this, but Jesus used it as a teaching moment to say this is how you're supposed to love.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I mean, this stuff, we do these things, and a lot of times I'll catch myself doing it like, okay, I did something and somebody knows about it and they ain't told me a good job, like,
right.
You kind of get upset, like, wait a minute, they should have told me thank you.
Yep.
You know,
and
it's
that's
like,
it.
Wait a minute. And then it's like, wait, that's not why I did it. You know, even in the moment, I wasn't doing it for that reason. But after the fact, I'm looking back saying, it's almost, wait a minute, somebody should have said, good job.
Oh, you don't have any money? You need $20? Yeah, I'll give you $20. Yeah, right. Man. You know, that part comes loud. That's right. And that this picture that was up, I don't know if is it still up, Tucker? Okay, good. That's fine. We look, and it's like we want to see. I believe when it's the right heart, the right motive, the glory or whatever comes out at the right time. That's you know, Miss Jackie and them started making masks for people. And now all of a sudden it was in the paper and, you know, on WLTX or whatever. But that was later on. They were doing this whether that would have happened or not.
They did it a long time before
exactly. That. And to me, that's the thing. When you start doing things with the right motive, it comes out. And I mean, see, the Samaritan's motive was just simply compassion and love. He made sure that he was taken care of. And I'll be honest, I think there's a lot of times we miss it. Because we are worried about, we let fear drive us sometimes. I don't know. What can you do during this pandemic to help somebody? I don't know what needs are. But to me, that comes from being involved in your community, knowing your people. Right. There's family members that I know what they have need of because we're involved with them. And a lot of times we don't know the need because we don't really see them. And when you read through the life of Christ, through the Gospels, you'll see different things like with Zacchaeus, the woman at the well, the blind man. And it always starts, that story always starts with he saw her. Yeah. He saw him.
He saw the need.
A lot of times we don't see because we've been self-absorbed. That's right. And I do think one thing from this pandemic has been, it has made us appreciate some of the things that we took for granted an awful lot.
Absolutely. I mean, there's things that you look back now and you say, man, 2 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I would have never taken a roll of toilet paper for granted. And now you can't find it. And it's like, or I would have never taken, you do things, you go to the park with your kids, and sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, please get me out of here. This is torture, having to sit here and watch these youngins run around, and they come up there and they want to do. Man, I would give anything to be able to go to the park and let my kids run around rather than being in the house all day.
That's right.
Kind of stuff. So
that's exactly right.
Even little trivial things like that, but to take it a step further, there's lots of things that we do take for granted. Man, there's people out there that don't have what we have, and I don't consider myself a wealthy individual, and,
right.
And like I know there's plenty of people with more money and more things than
right.
me. But you look back now and you say, man, you know what? I've actually got it pretty good. So what can I do to show this love to these people? And it may right. be doing little things and this stuff, but sometimes it's just your elderly neighbor that lives 2 doors down that doesn't have any visitors anyway. Like, you think about how terrible right. you've been in this time, and you're saying, man, I cannot take another day in my house. These people are closed up in their house every day. You know
That's
what?
Right.
What does
That's
it
exactly
take to
right.
go pick up their paper and knock on their door and say, hey, just checking on you, making sure everything's going? Little things like that you wouldn't even think about.
I love cops and Live PD. I love all that stuff. But I was watching Live PD the other night, and there was a call of somebody who was staring into the window of what they thought was like a house or whatever. And so they called the cops, and this deputy, she shows up, and she goes up to the person and starts talking to him, and the person is there spending time with their loved one who's inside, and they're looking through the window.
Yeah.
Man, that thing made me cry,
Yeah.
you know, because she said, whoa, wait, you know, here they are showing love through that way. And the first thing the police did, she turned around, and you could see the compassion because she teared up and started crying. And I thought, you know what? That's what we have to have. We need to be sensitive to everything and everybody around us. Now, I'm not talking about the offensive sensitivity, you know, where everything you say, well, I'm offended or whatever. You know, man, please get through that. But the sensitivity to see my brother's in need.
Yeah.
My sister's in need. And I don't know. Text me, 803-316-6952. What is something that you can do to show this Samaritan kind of love during this pandemic? And it might be just speaking to your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know, you said it. I can't imagine the elderly right now that doesn't get a lot of visitors. One thing that got me, this is a few years ago, the youth, for our Christmas thing, we bought a bunch of socks. Yeah. And what they did was just rolled up the socks and, you know, tied them with a little ribbon and put a little thing on them, you know, Merry Christmas from the Stand Youth Ministries. And we went to National Healthcare and just walked around singing Christmas carols into all the rooms. And Haley and Ansley, Ansley Nelson and my daughter Haley, they were in one little room with this lady, and I just walked in right to catch this, and thank the Lord that I did. I wish I'd had it recorded. But she had asked this lady, you know, what you want for Christmas? And she said, I want for my family to come see me because they never come see me.
Yeah.
You know, well, Haley and Ansley are balling. They were no good for the rest of the night. You know, and that thing kind of got me too. And I thought, wow. So what can you do to show love? Now, you can't go visit a nursing home because they're not going to let you in, especially now. But after this is over with.
Yeah, this is not a pandemic
topic.
This is a topic that you should learn in this pandemic.
That's right.
To take with you for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because this is not something, like I said, the Good Samaritan story didn't come out through pandemic.
Corona will end.
That's right.
Love should never end.
That's right. So that's I think that's the I mean, that 99% of the problems we see with our world today, and with, like you said, Facebook disputes with your neighbors, disputes with your, you know, even your friends, and disputes with work colleagues and that kind of stuff. If you just approach it with an attitude of, you know what, I'm going to show them love whether I get it in return or not.
Absolutely.
Because the Samaritan,
that's it right there.
The Samaritan knew he was never going to get any love from the Israelites, no matter what he did.
Right.
Because they hated each other. But he did it anyway because he knew he wasn't. And if the man leaves the inn, and he's gone, and it's 6 months later before the guy comes back and he pays the bill, he's never going to see that man again.
No.
But he knew he was never going to get anything in return.
Yep.
But he did it anyway, and that's where we got to say, look, you know what, this man's probably going to hate me anyway. But you know what? I've got to be the love in this relationship.
I think that nailed it. Loving, well, they don't love me, so I don't love them, and that's what we do a lot of times. That unconditional love is something that we cannot grasp because we are taught and geared, and our habitual human nature is to love those that are nice to us.
That's right.
You know, love those who are family or whatever. But to love your enemies, whew, that's tough.
It's easy to love when you get love back.
Absolutely.
It's everything. It's easy to spend time with people that want to spend time with you.
Absolutely.
It's easy to bless people that were willing to bless you back. It's easy to be around like-minded people,
right,
and that kind of stuff. But the problem and the love that they're showing in this story is not that love in return. It's easy, you know, when you and your wife everything's going good and I love you too, that kind of stuff. But when you've had one of these knockdown drag-outs, it's like, you know, it's kind of hard to say I love you right now, but you do. But you know, but on a global scale, it's hard to love somebody that you know is not going to love you back.
That's right. Somebody posted a meme that says, you know what I haven't seen in quite a while? Those, my wife's the best ever, my husband's the best ever. I hadn't seen many of those lately.
You know, up in the house with each
that's
other.
Exactly right. Stuck up in the house. And, you know, and that's another thing, too, that kind of feeds that whole theory of We love those that love us back.
That's right.
You know, but the thing is he ends this whole parable with, he concludes this with saying, go and do likewise. Go and do.
Yeah.
Two more
'Cause
things that require action.
That's right. So yeah, when he says, so which of these do you think the neighbor was the neighbor to him who fell among the thieves? And he said, the one who showed mercy on him. Then Jesus said to him, go and do likewise. And that's the mercy is like it's taking that love a step further. Like you said, it's easy love when somebody loves you back. It takes mercy, and it takes an extra love to love somebody that's not going to love.
That's
you
right.
back. And that's where you've got to be in the times like this.
Yeah. And you know, I there's a lot of people that we can love better than we can like.
Absolutely.
You know, that kind of thing. You know, I got some family members fall in that
Yeah,
thing.
I mean,
I love them, but woo-wee, you know, that kind of thing.
But,
you know, and I need to work on that from me.
Yeah.
From me. Unconditional love is something that's not, it's a rare thing anymore. And this is why I think we struggle sometimes even with our relationship with God, is that, oh, he's mad at me. Yeah. So he doesn't love me anymore. You know, or you don't know what I've done. And we can't grab a hold of that fact, but it still remains that God loves us.
Yep.
Period. And I don't, let's see, we got just a few more minutes, but I do want to make sure that you grab this. I don't care if this pandemic thing is over with tonight and everything's back to normal. I don't want our normal to be our normal going forward. I think we've really missed a lot. We have been conquered spiritually. I'm talking spiritual things now. I think we have been conquered spiritually because we have been divided for so long. Yep. Not necessarily divided to the argument part, but just from the whole inside of, well, I'm not going to be a part of that. And I think when there's unity is when God's kingdom will advance a lot better. Yeah.
Unity in the church, too.
Yes.
Unity and I'll tell you, we'll take that one step further. Unity in denominations of churches.
Absolutely.
Now, I grew up Baptist. There's no, Southern Baptist, and there's faults in the Southern Baptist. There's faults in the Church of God.
Absolutely.
There's faults in the Church of God of
That's right.
Prophecy. There's faults in the, but it is a huge. I mean, and it's even a competition between Church of God and Church of God.
Oh yeah.
Or Baptist and across town Baptist.
That's exactly right.
And until we can come together and say, you know what, the goal is to love our Sumter community.
Right.
It's not to, and to do that, we have to come together as believers, because
that's right.
There's nothing more that the devil wants to do is to say, you know what, man, forget those Baptists over there on time, or don't do nothing with the Church of God, because, man, you don't want to be involved with the Church of God, or you don't want to be involved with the Methodist Church, or the, whatever, because if we all get together and we love together, we could take the whole town of Sumter. But if we only love the Church of God people at the Church of God, and we only love the Baptist people at the Baptist Church, then we'll never. I
do think a lot of the world is looking and say, y'all can't even get along with each other. What you want me to be a part of that?
I mean, why would I want to be involved in that?
Exactly.
The church can't even love another church.
That's right. And I do think we've got to put this more in your face prevalent with the world of showing that, you know what, we're going to love regardless. When this is over, that's what's going to happen. Do I need to go to the nursing home and just walk through and say, you know what, hey, just speak? And I have fallen short too. There's a lot I need to work on with the whole love thing. And I think we've got to get to the point to where you said it's not about denomination. It's not even about what church within that denomination. It's about God. And the first thing I need to do is to realize you'll know I'm his disciple by the way I love. And my love has got to be the first thing that speaks volumes out of me. The first thing that you see is my first thought, my first reaction. Is it love? It should be. The Samaritan did. And what's sad is when you look at it from the eyes of what we've always been taught of, well, maybe he wasn't a church guy. I don't want a church guy to show God's love more than me. Yeah. That shouldn't be. And I God forgive me for the times I haven't, but that's one thing I really want to see. I think a lot have stepped back and gotten back to a lot of the basics of stuff, of saying, you know what, this pandemic has taught me about time. Somebody had posted earlier, I saw, about what has happened during the pandemic, about people have spent wow, great day, the amount of time on your phone, that kind of thing. I can say I've done halfway decent with it. I've started walking, I've done that before, doing some things that are going to help benefit me so that I can more benefit the kingdom. And I think that's all got to start with love. Eric, I'm glad when you text and message me that, this needs to be our topic tonight, because this is something that I think even needs to go further. I don't know, just how can you love? What is some way that during this pandemic that you can show Christ's love to those? And then one step further, what are some steps that you can take during this pandemic to make you a better lover of Christ and his kingdom and all the things concerning him when this is over? What can we do to serve our community? What can we do to serve where we're planted? And this thing can go even bigger than that. It's amazing at how fast some things can go viral, and what things do go viral. Yeah. But I do think that the thing that needs to go viral the most is the Christ-like love that we should have. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, right here on Facebook or right here on YouTube, whichever one you're on. We've done. In fact, explain a little bit about the YouTube.
Yeah, we I don't know if you heard the preach or how we talking about this morning as well. We merged the two YouTube channels together so we could have a little bit bigger audience. Some of the old, especially the older kids, and some even that haven't been through, were on the Stand Drama Team YouTube, and we started a new Stand Youth without. Really, we kind of got ahead of ourselves a little bit. So we've merged the two channels together. Some of the videos that were on the new channel will take a little while to get over there, but they're coming. But all the old videos will still be on there. But you can follow it. It's youtube.com/thestandYouth. That'll take you to the one channel.
That's right.
And if you haven't already been on that one, get on that one. If you're on Facebook, but if you're on Instagram too. The Stand Youth 99 on Instagram, the link's there in the bio. You can get all that stuff. But we've got plenty of things on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're trying to reach out as many ways as possible to make sure, not trying to promote our brand. We're not trying to grow a brand. But what we want is to be able to say, because I know a lot of kids have Instagram that don't have Facebook.
That's right.
A lot of people have YouTube that don't have Facebook, or they can get on YouTube easier than Facebook, or let's try to connect as many ways as we can. And you can message us on Facebook, Instagram, send us a text message, Snapchat, whatever. We've got all those covered where you can get in touch with us, tell us what's going on, let us know what's going on. Let's try to connect with each other. We're going to try to we're going to kind of be doing some different things too. Maybe try to set up a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
We're trying to get that going maybe in the coming week.
Look, I'm over 50. I'm struggling with all this technology thing, so thank you for helping.
We're trying to get there. But yeah, just be patient with us. Send us anything you got. Let's all.
I've already got a couple of people who have sent me some, but I need to hear from you. I can't stress that enough. A lot I'm not heard from. So send me questions or a topic that you want discussed or whatever. Some things you'd like to see us do during this time. This is all brand new territory for all of us, and it's made us be more creative and have to be. So send me those things. Send me your questions. Send me your comments, your suggestions. Whatever. I have never run this ministry from a dictatorship. Never. My thing is this. I need your help. So reach out to me. 803-316-6952. And let me just say this. Mima, I say Sister Sims, the pastor's mom, has been watching our stuff. And I'll be honest with you, see, there's little things that you can do during this pandemic that can show Christ's love. That is so encouraging to me.
Absolutely.
It's really encouraging me to know that Mima's watching this thing.
We appreciate everybody that's tuning in. And like I said, let us know what we can do. I mean, at some point, nobody talks to us. We're going to be up here singing and dancing before long. So, but you better get us some. But no, seriously. Let us know what we can talk about. Let us know what we can pray for you about.
That's right.
I mean, we want to be here to encourage you,
to
pray for you, to do anything we can to help you out.
That's right.
Neil, if you want to close us in prayer, let's close this one out tonight.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your love, your grace, your mercy. God, we thank you because you first loved us. Even when we didn't have a love for you, you still loved us. You loved us so much that you sent your son. And God, it's our responsibility to share that Son with the world. A world that's dark, a world that's there seems to be a little loss of hope or fear or anxiety or whatever it may be. That God, we know the hope. We know the way. We know the truth, and we know the life. And you've come to give us life that we might have it more abundantly. God, help us to share that during this time. Lord, to realize that our foundation is not upon this world or anything in it anyway, that it's you. And God, I pray that you'd help us to share that. Help us to have a love for our fellow man, to reach out. Lord, as the Samaritan has given us an example to follow. God, I pray that you would help us to love. I pray that you'd help us to pray for our enemies, to reach out to them. God, because our only enemy is Satan, who's seeking himself to devour and to just take us out. And God, I pray that you would protect us. Lord, Psalms 91, that you've given the angels charge over us. And God, I pray that you'd help us to claim our spiritual authority in Christ, to make a difference in the world that we walk in, to show Christ's love, that it becomes the biggest action in our life. We love you. We thank you for all things. It's in your mighty, wonderful, eternal name that we live and we pray. Amen.
Amen.